What's this channel about? How did I get started in music production? Why did I see the need for this channel and community? And much more on this episode of Pro Music Creator. Being that this is the first video on this channel, I figured I'll provide a little information about what this channel is about and why I created it. But before I discuss the channel, let me introduce myself. I'm Ken Ramirez. I'm originally from New York City and I started making music at a very early age. Initially, I took up guitar and piano lessons because it was my dream to play in a band. And then in middle school, I learned to play the upright bass and played in my school orchestra. It was right around that time that I was also introduced to spinning records with DJ equipment. An older brother of a friend of mine was already doing it and I became interested in it. I quickly picked up the skills and began down the path of throwing house parties. These included house parties with my friends that we organized, as well as street parties around the city. As I started to gain some recognition, I began to DJ for money. This lasted throughout the time I attended high school. However, my love for music only got stronger, almost like living a double life. I began to acquire music producing hardware and began recording other potential artists in my home studio. Some of the early hardware I used included the EMU SP1200, the DX7, the Ensoniq Barrage, Roland's TB303, the Roland TR606, and of course, the famous Roland TR808. I remember recording on a Tascam cassette-based 4-track and bounced between tracks to record more parts. This, of course, eventually led me to spend time at recording studios all over New York City, where I began to use professional gear such as the SSLs and the Neve boards of the day. I also used UA compressors, Lexicon effect processors, the Tascam 24 and 48 track recorders, and much more. Although I learned a lot and I had a ton of fun producing music, I didn't have much success in regards to growing a music career. At that time, one thing became obvious to me. Much of the gear that I owned and others I used in the studios had limited amounts of memory and were unable to dump their data directly to a computer. Mostly because patch librarians hadn't been invented yet, or they were limited to working with specific hardware. Instead, most gear supported some form of onboard storage, such as floppies. There were no external drives such as SSDs or SD cards back then, and the problem with floppies is that they eventually fail, resulting in the loss of data. However, most gear, at least the drum machines and synthesizers of those days, supported MIDI. And MIDI supports commands that instruct the instrument to dump its data from its internal memory via the MIDI port. Just the same, you can send data back to the instrument via the MIDI connection. During my high school years, I learned to program in BASIC and I used a Commodore 64 to do so. It wasn't difficult for me to learn how to program in BASIC, and essentially I learned how to use BASIC to take advantage of the MIDI specification for downloading and uploading data to and from the instrument. Patch librarians hadn't been created yet, so if you wanted one, you had to build it yourself, which is what I did. I wish I would have had the insight back then to start a business around that idea. I had the technical chops back then, but just didn't develop the business knowledge just yet. Soon, I had a way to make money by selling the service to various recording studios around the city. Eventually, I realized I had a knack for programming, so I decided to take it up in college, and my first career was born. Throughout the years, I've been a software programmer and a solution architect and have worked on and designed a number of large systems for many Fortune 500 companies. All in all, I've had a very successful IT career. However, during the last 4 years, I've also started to hear the music calling me back, and I've begun to play guitar, play the bass, and play piano again. I've also started to build a home studio that has now been expanded to include some pretty pro-level gear, such as the UA Apollo X8P and satellite, Yamaha monitors, Beyerdynamics headphones, and an Apple M1 Pro Max MacBook Pro. If you're interested, let me know in the comments and I'll create a video walkthrough of my home studio and outline both the hardware and the software. Up until about 4 years ago, I'd been away from producing music for a while. I mean, a long time. From time to time, the itch would hit. I'd toy with the idea of coming back to it and would make excuses like,
"It's been too long," or "I haven't practiced any of the instruments in years," or "I probably forgot it all," or "I'm too old to start again."
Before that, the last time I produced any music was about 20 years ago. However, I decided a few years ago that I would take the time to begin my exit from my IT career and give it another go at creating a music career. I created this channel to document this new journey and share it with you in the hopes that there might be others that might benefit from it and might even want to share their own experiences during this journey in music. I'm a strong believer that you have to take the journey as a passenger before you can take it as a driver. I didn't start this channel to position myself as the authority in the music industry. On the contrary, I believe that I still have a ton to learn, and we can all learn and grow together. And if I have a little knowledge on a particular topic, I'm happy to share it in the hopes that some of you could share some of your knowledge on topics I'm unfamiliar with. Before we continue, I want to say that if you enjoy this type of content and would like to see more like this, please go ahead and click the like button. When I started to think about what I wanted this channel to be, I watched and observed many of the existing content creators in the space. I sat down and I began to ask myself a series of questions to which I will now provide the answers so we all know where I'm going with this channel. Let's take a look at the journey ahead. First, what do I want to achieve from a music career? If I'm being honest with myself, there are several areas I'd like to grow. Number one, I'd love to grow this YouTube channel. I have a ton of plans for it, which I'll get to shortly. So stick around to the rest of the video to learn more. You and I both know that the more successful this channel becomes, the more opportunities will open for music production and other avenues. The goal, of course, is to build it into a full-time business and a career from it. Hopefully, you'll stick with me and see how that goes and how far I can take it. I promise to share everything on this channel as the channel grows. Before that happens though, I'll need to expand my skills and learn a ton, but I am confident that we can get through it together. Number two, in the past, I've written books in my IT career. I'd love to write more books, but this time for the music industry. More specifically, I'd like to write about music production, songwriting, mixing, mastering, etc. Again, I have to take the journey as a passenger before I can take it as a driver. So it'll be some time before I get to this goal. Number three, I hope to one day take my learnings and share them with the world in the form of educational videos and courses ranging from free to paid courses. Number four, what are we here to do? Produce music, right? It's always been a grand goal of mine to produce, write, and publish music for bands and artists. I'd also like to get my music license for TV, movies, or video games. As my skills grow, what better way to put them to use than to help others with their music? Whether that means creating music, editing, mixing, or mastering. Number five, I'd like to create and produce beats. Some will be offered royalty-free and others will be licensed. I'm actually building a separate channel to showcase some of the royalty-free music I'll be producing. I'll then show and break down how I built those beats or songs on this channel. Okay, so on to the next question I asked myself. How is this channel different from any other? In my opinion, everyone else is trying to be too serious. Rightfully so, though, for those that have actually put in some real time and have the experience in producing music and are now sharing their wealth of experience and knowledge. Then there are those who, just like you and I, are learning as they go, and instead of saying that, they claim to be experienced and knowledgeable. Don't get me wrong, I think everyone has something to say and share because you might know just a little bit more than the next person. That's cool, but don't make it seem like you've been doing this for 20 years if you just learned it yesterday. Instead, be honest and say that. I believe that in order to be any good at anything, you have to be allowed to have a safe space to experiment, play with things, make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes. Put yourself out there and have fun while you learn. That's why I thought I'd start and be the first one to admit that I don't know everything. But together, we can figure it out. That's also why I thought I'd build a community that's made up of like-minded people willing to share ideas, support each other, and help each other out. And most of all, admit that not everyone knows everything. But as we figure it out and learn something, we can keep pushing forward and learn new things. If you feel like you know it all and there's nothing you can learn, then this channel might not be for you, but that's okay. But if on the other hand, you have some knowledge to share, but also want to learn and fill the gaps from others' experiences, then you have come to the right place, my friend. Why did I see the need for this channel? I wanted to see a channel that offers the details of not only what something like a plugin or a piece of software does, but also how it does it, how it's used, and how that knowledge of using it was gathered. Sometimes the process of gaining knowledge is just as important as the actual knowledge and understanding. I also see many channels discuss certain topics, but they skip or breeze through the details. I happen to like the details. Details are what help me to understand the different ways in which things can be combined to create different outcomes. At the same time, I want to be able to experiment with things in ways that they weren't meant to be used. I don't want to be stringent during the creative process. Why am I not being stringent on what I use or what technique I learn? Well, because some of the best ideas come from what we play with. Think about it for a minute. When did you feel the most creative and the most freedom to try different things in your life? Probably when you were a kid. Have you ever watched a kid pick their clothes and get dressed? They'll dress themselves with colors that have no business being on one person at the same time. They'll look like a box of Crayolas exploded all over them. And then an adult tells them, oh, those colors don't match, and they start losing their creativity. What if I told you to try that distortion plugin on vocals or a snare drum? You might say, but I was told that's not what it's meant to be used on. You see my point? Creativity. Is this channel only for pros? Very much the opposite. Eventually, we all become pros at doing something, especially with enough practice. That's the whole point of this channel. I named this channel Pro Music Creator as the antithesis and irony of the word pro. That's the reason the word pro is crossed out with an X in this channel's logo. It's not meant to mean that we begin at the starting line as professionals, but rather we end each race as pros in whatever topic we tackle. That's assuming that you understand the topic and practice it. This is the philosophy that this channel is built on. What will we cover on this channel? Everything from audio essentials to equipment, to software, to business, to marketing music, to DAWs, to writing music and songs, to dynamic effects and how to use those effects, recording and mic techniques, and much, much more. So, am I the expert on all these topics? Absolutely not. My intention is to provide you with the information on what I know and learn as I go what I don't know. If you like the sound of that, please consider clicking the like button. And if you wish to be notified of upcoming videos, click the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on the notifications so that you're made aware of upcoming videos when I release them. And if you wouldn't mind, please comment below and let me know what your musical goals are. Are you a singer? Are you a songwriter? Are you a producer? Please help me share this video with others. It'll go a long way in supporting and helping the channel grow. If you have questions, please leave a comment below. I'll make sure to answer it personally as soon as possible. Thanks, and see you next time.